Hello and welcome to day 2 in Thailand for the Thai test. This is After the Flag with myself, Steve Day, and Simon Crafar. Coming up in today's show, we will speak to Matt Burt live from pit lane, hopefully, as we get underway and find out what's happened, of course, in day 2. We will give you an update on the standings because, of course, testing is actually still taking place. We'll be talking about the growth of Motogp in Asia. We'll get an update on the tyres. We've got some fan questions as well coming in for Simon Crafar and much more besides. We'll obviously round the show up with all the interviews and reaction from the day so far, plus much more. After yesterday, of course, it was Cal Crutchlow who was fastest coming into today. It's fair to say I think Honda had a pretty good day at the office. Simon, plenty to look forward to coming up in the next couple of hours.
Yeah, and like you said about Honda, it's the first time for a long time I've seen them at a track where we have slow turns coming onto long straights and their top speed is at the top of the list. So, well,
we'll be talking a bit later about aero packages as well, because we've seen a few fairings coming through. Suzuki have gone out and tried some new fairings that look very similar to Ducati, although unfortunately it looks like Alex Rins and Andrea Iannone have both fallen. They are okay though.
Yeah, it's testing. It's fully expected. They've got to test them to the limit, and that happens, you know. And
as we mentioned, we've got fan questions coming up later. Are you looking forward to that, Simon? Because you don't actually know what's coming up yet, do you?
No. Hopefully it's not too difficult or embarrassing. So here we go.
No, that's great. Well, we'll crack on with the show and see what we've got coming up. We'll also, of course, as we ended yesterday's show, we were talking about the riders heading off to a safety commission meeting. Well, we'll be able to tell you more about that a little later on as well with Loris Capirossi. So after yesterday, Simon, what in particular are you looking for? I mean, it looked like we needed a step forward from Yamaha. They were struggling.
I really hope, like I always say, because I want all the manufacturers to have a good old fight. But I think we're going to be relieved when we see both the Yamaha riders looking happy, in the interviews. I mean, Rossi looked happy yesterday with what was happening, but I don't think Maverick did. And I want, as soon as they get to the top of the sheet, the top few, I think then it's going to be more interesting for all of us.
At the moment, we can see that Danny Pedrosa is still quickest. There's 26 minutes remaining in the session, a 1:30.127. Jack Miller, again, that name's up there once more. And his teammate Danilo Petrucci, Cal Crutchlow up inside the top 5. That could change at any time. But as we did yesterday, why don't we start things off by heading over live to Thailand and speak to our good buddy, Matt Burt. Matt, how are the weather conditions there today? I suspect very similar to yesterday.
Yes, Steve, I think it's fair to say few water scorcher again here in Thailand. Ambient temperatures, just like yesterday, reaching close to 40 degrees. But the hot conditions have also brought some incredibly hot lap times with them as well. As you just mentioned, Steve, Danny Pedrosa on the Repsol Honda, a 1:30.1. The fastest as yet. The track's still open for about another 10 minutes here in Thailand before the riders go through their practice start routine. Pedrosa's time 6/10 faster than what we saw from Cal Crutchlow yesterday. But 2 days so far in Thailand, and it's been very much advantage Honda. Cal Crutchlow quickest yesterday, and Danny Pedrosa on top of the pass so far today.
At the top of the show there about Yamaha, we were hoping that they'd make a step forward from a neutral perspective. Both Maverick Vinales and Valentino Rossi, they seem to be struggling quite a lot. Maverick in particular, same old story as with Sepang Test.
Yeah, there's some pretty long and pretty confused faces right now. Certainly on Maverick Vinales' side of that factory Yamaha garage, as you rightly say, Steve. Outside of the top 10 yesterday, the lap times were very, very close. The top 20 covered by less than 1 second, which owes much to the fact this is a very short layout here at Buriram. But Maverick Vinales, fairly brief in his assessment of what happened yesterday. He wasn't really in a talkative mood, and why would he be? Close to a second off the pace, and all kinds of problems with the M1, which he can't really at this stage put his finger on. I did an interview earlier on with his crew chief Ramon Forcada, and they're a little bit baffled. They felt coming here, the track layout, one would suit the Yamaha and certainly suit Maverick's riding style, but it's been far from the truth. They're really struggling, mainly with edge grip, certainly through that fast turn 3, and when you get through turns 4 through to 11, Maverick, when the bike's at lean angle, he's getting way too much wheel spin, no grip whatsoever. Conversely, his teammate Valentino Rossi, his problem seemed to be in the acceleration phase of the corner. He talked yesterday about the fact that quite clearly at the moment the Honda and the Ducati both have stolen the march on the Yamaha in terms of corner exit speed. That was something that they talked about a lot last year, of course. Silvano Galbacera, Valentino Rossi's crew chief, saying this morning that basically Honda and Ducati right now, as was the case last year, in effect, in terms of the controlled electronics that have come in from Magneti Marelli last year, Honda and Ducati have just got their heads around what they need to extract the best out of those electronics, more than Yamaha. When Rossi gets on the throttle coming out of some of these low gear hairpins like turn 1, turn 2 and turn 12, he's just losing too much. The electronics are kicking in, there's too many cuts for anti-wheelie and traction control. That's losing crucial momentum going forward, and around a short lap like this where there is so much low gear acceleration, you can't afford to lose a thousandth, let alone a tenth. So yeah, there's a lot of work still to be done back in Iwata after what looked like a promising start. Maverick Vinales, of course, quickest when we return from the winter break on day one in Malaysia, but since then it's been a pretty downhill slope, certainly for the Spanish rider, who's got a bit of head scratching going on.
Thailand, and then we go to Qatar, and we've got a few days there. Do you sense a feeling of panic at all in the Yamaha camp?
I wouldn't say panic. I think that the first 2 days in Malaysia, everything was all rosy in the garden. They looked very, very happy. We saw Vinales and Rossi fighting for the top spot on those first days. And then on that last day, catch your minds back a couple of weeks ago, Steve, you and Simon were both doing After the Flag then from Malaysia, when it got really, really hot on that final day in Sepang. Some of the old issues came back to haunt the Yamaha. We saw last year, cast your minds back to the Spanish Grand Prix in Jerez, the circuit, the Barcelona-Catalunya race in mid-June, when it was really, really hot, track temperatures well over 50 degrees. That's when the Yamaha really, really suffered and really toiled. Now, Yamaha in Malaysia was saying that they really were just missing one lap pace. If you looked at their race rhythm over the longer laps, they had the consistency. But yeah, I think there's been a couple of alarm bells might just start ringing unless they can pick up the pace a little bit tomorrow. Valentino Rossi also today, the day after his 39th birthday. I don't think there was any party here last night in Buriram, although we've got a party atmosphere here in the city. I don't think there was any heavy partying for Valentino last night, but today he also struggling to get inside that top 10. So yeah, there is still work for those engineers to be doing back in Iwata, because right now, from the get-go in winter testing, it certainly seems like Honda and Ducati have got the jump on them.
And talking about Honda, I mean, we've already mentioned, obviously, Dani Pedrosa fastest in this session. Cal looking good yesterday. We know how strong Marc is. Conversely, Honda, it is looking rather rosy in the garden at this early stage.
Yeah, absolutely bang on the money there, Steve. Yeah, I think on paper, before everybody came here to Buriram, the layout of the circuit, most people are saying that it's very familiar or very similar to the Red Bull Ring in Austria. Well, we know what's happened there over the last 2 years. Ducati has been untouchable around the Red Bull Ring. So I think everybody felt that this was going to be Ducati territory. Not so has been the case so far. As you rightly said, Steve, Cal Crutchlow fastest yesterday. The three factory Hondas with Marc Marquez and Dani Pedrosa inside that top 5 yesterday. Dani Pedrosa currently leading the way on day 2. It seems like the Honda has taken a real step in terms of their engine performance. Now, we know that that was something that they really, really were working hard on back in Japan throughout the off-season. How many times have we heard Cal Crutchlow and Marc Marquez talk about the fact that they were getting hurt on corner exit? There was too much wheelie. The bike had lots and lots of horsepower, but they couldn't find a way to properly manage it. Now, Honda have done something brilliant with their electronics, and what they've done crucially as well, Steve, certainly for this first couple of sectors here, it's a really long straight from turns 1 through to turn 2, and then conversely leading from turn 2 and 3. And the Honda engine, the new Honda engine, which has been picked and favoured pretty much by all three, Crutchlow, Pedrosa and Marquez, they found a few more ponies out of that engine, a few more horsepower, because on top speed at the moment on the straights here, they are a match for Ducati. So Honda have clearly, with their engine development, taken quite a big step. Good days also for Marc Marquez. I don't know what Honda have got prepared for him later on, but I hope they've got a really big cake for him. His 25th birthday today, of course, and he has been working incredibly hard. When I came down to speak to you guys for this show, Marquez had already put in nearly 90 laps, so they're making him earn his money on his birthday, that's for sure.
Sure, he loves it. What better way to spend your birthday than out on his championship winning machine. Moving across to a completely different bike now. Sorry to change things completely, Matt, but I'm looking at the standings as we speak. Aleix Espargaro 16th, Scott Redding 20th. I understand there are some severe engine issues with Aprilia at the moment, and they are running out of time.
Yeah, they are running out of time, Steve. What they are going to be banking on, keeping their fingers crossed and desperately hoping for the final test in 2 weeks' time in Qatar, is when Aprilia have told us that their brand new engine spec will come to the fore, and that's what they really need. The first two sectors here are all about horsepower. You come out of that first corner, very low gear, you're accelerating all the way up to close to 350 degrees before the hard braking for turn 2. Low gear acceleration, out of 2, a long straight, then down to that fast sweeping left-hander at turn 3. It's been an age-old problem for Aprilia. They struggle with a bit of grunt, a bit of punch coming out of those low gear corners, and we know that the RSGP, it's a beautiful looking motorcycle, and boy does it handle brilliantly. From turns 4 to 11, it's one of the fastest bikes out there. Aleix Espargaro raving about the chassis. Very agile, very manoeuvrable, easy to flick and change direction, but they're getting absolutely hammered in those first two sectors. They need something from the Wale in terms of the engine performance. Aleix Espargaro commenting yesterday, just in the first two sectors alone here, Steve, losing as much as half a second. And as we said, Motogp so close and competitive these days, you can't give away half a tenth, let alone half a second, if you've got any aspirations of fighting at the front.
We're going to move on to one last subject, and we'll let you go and get in the cool. Just before that, Marc Marquez is just stuck in the fastest lap of the test, a 1:29.969. Happy birthday to you, Marc. I want to now move on to a subject that we talk about. We obviously talk about Marc, we talk about the Yamahas. I want to talk about dark horses. Me and Simon here in the studio in Sepang here as well have been waxing lyrical about two riders in particular so far at the start of this 2018 winter campaign, Alex Rins and Jack Miller. What are your thoughts on those two as we head into the new season?
Hang on, sorry, I was just buzzed there by Cal Crutchlow. That reminded me a bit of a scene out of the Top Gun. It's like requesting a flyby, negative Ghost Rider, the pattern is full. He's a cheeky so-and-so, isn't he, Cal Crutchlow? He literally just came within about half a metre of me there. I'll try and regain my composure. Don't worry, I'll get him back for that later on. Quickly coming back to those two stellar performances so far in winter testing, Steve. As you mentioned, Alex Rins and Jack Miller, both inside the top 6 so far today. Firstly, talking about Alex Rins. For me, Steve, the key for him is one thing. He's healthy. His body's 100% in terms of his physical condition. He had so many injury problems at the start of last year. We only really saw Alex come to the fore once he was fit from around Misano onwards last year. And when he did recover his full health, he was able to put that Suzuki, wet or dry, quite comfortably inside the top 6. He's carried on superbly the momentum gained after a real confidence-inspiring test in Malaysia a couple of weeks ago, really riding high on the crest of a wave and showing in many respects. I've got to say this, Suzuki team boss Davide Brivio last year did take quite a bit of heat. Cast your minds back to the middle of 2016 when they knew that Maverick Vinales was leaving to go to Yamaha. They'd signed a pre-contract with Johann Zarco, and based on what happened with Johann Zarco last year, his outstanding rookie year, everybody felt that Suzuki had dropped the ball. They made a big mistake in letting Zarco go. But Davide Brivio said, be patient, wait until Alex Rins is fully fit, and he's showing exactly what he's capable of doing. I think he's going to be a real dark horse. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see him fighting for the podium on a regular basis and taking that Suzuki back to where Maverick Vinales took it, to the top step of the podium at the British Grand Prix at Silverstone, of course, 2 weeks ago. And as you rightly mentioned, Steve, another real outstanding performer of this pre-season so far has been Jack Miller. I mean, he fell in love with that Ducati when he jumped on it in November at Thailand. It was love at first sight, and that love affair just continues. Jack, absolutely buzzing. He looks like a completely different character to the last 2 years when he toiled and struggled a little bit on the Mark VDS Honda. It seems that the Ducati, it just allows him to ride how he wants. He can ride more freely, more natural. He's not kind of having to second guess and be one step ahead of the bike, and that's credit to Ducati. Let's not forget that Ducati, without any shadow of a doubt, has got the most powerful engine in MotoGP. You've only got to look at the speed records at the fast tracks like Mugello, Qatar and Barcelona. The speed trap figures tell you that Ducati are unsurpassed in terms of top speed, but it's the way that they manage and control it. They've got such a handle on these Magneti Marelli controlled electronics that they can use that power to real good effect. And Jack just says every time he came out the corner on the Honda, the screen was smacking him in the face because there was just so much wheelie, and he was having to try and fight the bike constantly on corner exit. The Ducati's got loads of power to burn, but they can manage that corner exit much better. Jack was talking to the media earlier on today. He's got a smile as wide as Australia at the moment. He really is buzzing, really optimistic about his chances of fighting for the top 6 on a regular basis. He said he's as happy now as he was when he was winning races and fighting for the Moto3 World Championship way back in 2014. And Jack produced some fireworks then, so let's hope for more of the same from him in 2018.
Matt, you've been absolutely perfect. We're going to let you get in the call now, and I know that you've got to conduct some interviews for us later on, so we'll look forward to speaking to you a bit later on. Thanks, mate.
Yeah, no problem, Steve. I've got a score to settle the cow cuts though as well.
Yeah, go get him. He deserves it. Thanks to Matt Burt there. Simon, just quickly before we move on, we just heard there, and we've got to mention that Marc Marquez is just stuck in the first sub-130 lap time. Hondas, as we've just mentioned, really do have the upper hand here, especially over Yamaha.
It just looks like they've fixed, like I keep saying, they've fixed the problem from last year.
Yeah.
You know, and I was going to say the problem they're talking about Yamaha having, Honda had. You know, when you watched the race last year, Mugello coming onto the front straight, how much Honda would lose, and it was about electronic management, you know, wheelie, getting the power on the ground. They've obviously fixed that. It sounds like what Rossi's saying is a little bit of the same, which is, to me, is a little bit strange because the acceleration from the Yamaha has been good, you know, until he's been saying that. It sounds like Maverick's problem is something else, you know, the side grip through the more flowing sections, but you can see Maverick now is moving his way up the sheet, so I'm really pleased to see that because we need those boys happy.
We certainly do, yeah. These guys are going to go out for some more practice starts now. It looks like Marc Marquez is going to close the day on his birthday as the fastest rider on day 2. It couldn't really be any more perfect. We'll talk more about Marc Marquez a little later on in the show. Now, as I mentioned before, we closed yesterday's show with images of the riders heading to a safety commission meeting. So let's have a look and see exactly what went on in that meeting and catch up with safety officer and the man in charge of all of that, Loris Capirossi, to see what exactly was discussed yesterday afternoon.
It's really important for us just to listen the rider about new track. Always when we have new track, it's good to listen which part we have to improve.
2 questions. What did the rider say about the Buriram track? Today was the first day for MotoGP. What can you say about their feedback?
Yeah, the feedback, like I say, is positive because the most of riders say the track is quite good. It's nice to ride. It's not really technical. It's not really difficult track. But overall, from this morning, the grip is quite good. The track is quite clean. You know, this is also very good for us. And we have just to do a small thing about pit exit, pit entry to do some modifying. But the rest is positive from nearly everybody.
What do you think? Your personal opinion about the track?
Yeah, well, it's good. Today I work around the track to watch the rider, and we have some point it's quite slow, at some point it's unbelievable fast. But to watching is great.
Loris Capirossi there, more of a politician, not exactly coming out with clear answers, as you could probably imagine, Simon. Just quickly talking about a safety commission. Back when you were riding, I don't think there was an actual safety commission, was there?
Well, they had a rider representative that we could, rather than the organisers of the championship having to deal with a lot of different riders' complaints, you'd have one guy you'd go to and talk to him. But when through national championships, through up to World Superbikes, then Grand Prix, even in my day when you got to the GP paddock, it's another level. Like, honestly, not just because I'm working with you guys, it is another level. Right down to, they stipulate the height of the gravel trap has to be so you don't slide off the asphalt, hit a higher, and then the bike and the rider flip and do more damage, you know. And that's, when you think about it, it's good, isn't it? You know, it's a no-brainer, you know. But you can imagine without stipulating that, it won't be there and more people get injured. But all those little things is thought about, you know, is good.
Well, here you see all the riders heading to that safety commission. I'm not sure all of them like going to them, but, you know, safety is paramount, as we've already mentioned. Now, as we watch this and we see the riders heading over, I'm sure that some of you might not have managed to catch the show here yesterday. It was Friday after all. Maybe you've got the weekend off and you're tuning in for the first time. So what better way to just give you a better recap than let's just sort of mix up all of the riders' thoughts on this Chang International Circuit. And at the end of day one, this is a roundup of what the majority of the riders thought of the Chang International Circuit.
Yesterday with the scooter, I felt like, okay, it's a fast track, but today on the MotoGP, I realized that it was slower than what I expect. I mean, many second gear corners, even third gear corners, but even like this, hard accelerations, hard break points. But anyway, difficult to manage the tire life because it's where we are working more, because it looks like have many corners that we are loading a lot.
Well, it's quite strange because there is 3 very slow corners and all the other are you have to make the corner with a lot of angle, a lot of spin, and it's quite small, the last part of the track. With our bikes it's quite strange. Also the ends of the corners are quite strange, but it's nice to try new things.
It's like kind of a hard braking circuit, you know. You have really, let's say, 3 hard braking points, but also some other corners you have like kind of everything. The hard braking is nice, but you have also like some directions change, and there it's very important to be precise with the bike, you know, to be really on the line, where I keep work on.
The grip of the track is quite good. The heat is super, I mean, one of the worst I ever test. And the track itself is quite narrow, and so the lines are important and the speed is important.
When you ride a MotoGP bike, it's more complicated, no? Everything coming more narrow and more difficult, no? Especially the last 2 sectors are especially very critical because you have to choose the right line. Otherwise, you lose a lot.
Yeah, it's not a bad track. I think very suited for Ducati with some straights or back-to-back. But honestly, it's not bad. I was expecting a little bit worse. It seems quite fun. There's some easy, but at the same time, it's technical. You know, like the braking after turn 1, you go down to 2. The braking point, there is no reference. The track goes very wide. So this is one area that seems easy, but it's quite technical. And the circuit is quite nice for me.
There are 2 or 3 maybe key points, and one is the exit of the first corner, because there is a long straight then, and you have to be fast all the straight, and it's important to go out of the first corner faster is very important.
The third corner, corner 3, I like it a lot. It's really long braking, and it's a really wide corner, so I like it. I struggle a bit in changing direction, so maybe 6, 7 and 11, 10, 11, but at the end it's a good circuit.
This track, I think, is many riders say easy. It's never easy to gonna win a race, but I mean it's easy maybe to learn the track and to find the right line, and that makes all the riders so close in lap time. But so close in lap times means much more fight, and that can be a good thing for the future.
It certainly can be a good thing for the future. We hope that when we arrive in Thailand for round 15 later on in October, that we will see a good fight all the way to the finish line. Now, this isn't just a new circuit for the riders and the teams. It's also a new circuit for our tyre manufacturer as well. Michelin, of course, who came in 2016, have been working hard throughout the winter to try and get everything right. And Piero Taramasso here explains exactly what they've brought here to Thailand.
This is very important test because we never test in this track, so it's brand new for us. We came for that reason. We came with the 4 front solution and 4 rear, so all the riders they can try different kind of tire. Basically, we have a soft, medium, hard, and one extra hard for the front and for the rear. Same thing. Why the extra hard? Because the temperature here could be very hot. We know that the track temperature could be easily 55 or 60 degrees, so that's why we came with this allocation. The starting point, of course, we start from the track surface, so we have some sample about the asphalt, and we look if it's the level of abrasion, the abrasivity. So this is for the wear, to try to anticipate the wear level, and also to try to anticipate the solicitation that the ground do in the tires. Then we start also from the track layout, because the layout, you can calculate the average speed and also the stress, the charge, the load you put on the tire. So we have a special simulator about that. And also we get some information about passenger car racing. We have some car with the Michelin tire that they race in GT 500, is the DTM, like the DTM in Europe. So we get all this information and we try to simulate the stress, the force we can get in the tire, and then we try to choose the best compound. The layout looks very close to the A1 ring in Austria, because the straight line and also the corner. Here you have 7 corner on the right, 5 on the left, so very little solicitation in the left if you want. So it looks quite similar to that. Maybe here track temperature we will get more higher, but I think we are ready for all kind of things that could happen.
Regarding the fronts, are you also bringing the two new fronts, that you brought in Sepang 3 weeks ago?
Yes, that was the plan, to test these two new compounds. So we tested in Sepang. The results they were very positive. So now we came again with these 2 tires. And then if the results are okay at the end of the test, we will bring it again to Qatar. And then if it's all positive, if the feedback is good, we will propose this new compound for the 2018 season.
Thanks there to Piero Taramasso. Now, when we're talking tyres, Simon, these guys you just heard there, similarities to A1 Ring today. The tyre that was used in the A1 Ring Spielberg has been brought here to be made available to the riders. Also, tyres that were used last season in Brno, Argentina, Sachsenring, and of course we just heard there the new compound in Sepang as well. So they're basically trying to find the right solution on a brand new circuit that helps, because they've got to take into consideration the layout, the heat, and the track surface.
Yeah, it's one of the reasons they are having the test there, because tyres are the most important thing, Like, they're the biggest. Like, for example, if the tyres won't do the race, from Phillip Island a few years ago, that problem, they couldn't even last the race. It destroys the whole thing. So they have to go there, figure out the range they need to work in, and find a tyre that keep the guys safe on their bikes, but also make it to the end of the race. So yeah, it's a huge job for them. Probably one of the hardest jobs.
It's a funny subject, because obviously some riders like the Michelins, some riders are a little unsure. But one thing that has always been mentioned by all riders is that they are not questioning the work that is being put in terms of what they're trying to constantly improve. Let's be honest, Simon, since they've come in 2016, Motogp has been close. It's been great racing.
Exactly what I was going to say. Like, when it was Bridgestone a few years ago, I noticed that the younger, pure talent guys with a little bit less experience could, lack of fear, the age thing, and they could do something special and run away, And as soon as Michelin came in, it looked a little bit, especially in the beginning, because they didn't have experience at all the tracks and hadn't been in GP for a while. Obviously, they're improving now, and their level, they get more experience. But the great thing is that it made it possible for Rossi with more experience, Dovizioso with more experience, to manage these more difficult tyres last year, and it made the championship great, because the young fellas didn't run away. They had problems, fell off, and it had, I think, a really good result on the championship, And tyres are so important that it's why they've gone one make series, because nobody's got an advantage, They've all got the same thing.
It looks as though, as well, riders that are coming up from Moto 2 are finding them quite nice to deal with as well.
So we haven't actually spoken to them, but I would like to hear their comments on it.
Well, I'm sure we'll hear as the season goes on. As you can probably see on the left of your screen there, the times have all disappeared. That's because the test for today has finished, and it is birthday boy Marc Marquez who ends the day fastest overall. The only rider to drop under the 130s, a 129.969. What a time there from the world champion, ahead of his teammate Danny Pedrosa, Repsol Honda 1-2. Jack Miller again up there in third. Maybe some promise for Maverick Vinales, who in the closing stages has moved up to fourth. Hopefully we'll hear from him later on. Johan Zarco was fifth. Danilo Petrucci not far behind his teammate was sixth, ahead of Alex Rins again inside the top 8. Cal Crutchlow, fastest yesterday, 8th quickest today. Andrea Dovizioso there, the first of the factory Ducatis, in 9th place ahead of his teammate Jorge Lorenzo. We'll hear from the pair of them hopefully later on. Andrea Iannone there is 11th ahead of Tito Rabat, Alvaro Bautista. Valentino Rossi, his name all the way down in 14th place. I wonder what's going on there. Taka Nakagami 15th, again the quickest of the rookies. Bradley Smith up to 16th on the KTM, and Alessia Spargaro and the woes for Aprilia continue here as they run out of time, and they are 17th today. Franco Morbidelli 18th, then Mika Kallio, who's okay after the crash from yesterday. Scott Redding 20th, then Carol Abraham, Tom Luthi. Hafiz Syrin has managed to pop his name up ahead of Xavier Simeon there. Really impressive stuff from Syrin, the Malaysian rider, in his first time out on a machine. So, Simon, your first thoughts on what we're seeing there? I mean, obviously, the standout is the name of the top.
You stole it off me. The standout ride from today, for me, is Jack Miller. Like, you know, the rest you kind of expect. A little bit disappointing for Valley. I'd like to see him further up, but we've got another day tomorrow. But the standout one is Jack Miller. You know, like they were saying, he's obviously... Matt was saying how happy he is on the bike, but since he's got on it, just unreal. It's so good to see. Him and Rins, like we're saying, they're the wild cards for this year.
Absolutely. Well, we've got to move on now, and we will be talking a little bit more about Marc Marquez anyway, a bit later on in the show. But we've got to talk now about the growth of MotoGP in Asia. It's something that has happened so well. I mean, we know how popular motorcycles are. I mean, the motorcycle sales in general are kind of, you know, what it's all about. The reason these manufacturers some of them are here are because of the sales that go on in this part of the world. But we've got some great circuits now. We've just had Thailand, of course, added to the calendar. Malaysia. We've got Japan, of course, home to many of the manufacturers in the championship. Indonesia has a huge fan base. Just give us your opinions. Give us your thoughts on this.
I mean, it's a no-brainer, isn't it? Really, when the most fans that MotoGP have are in that part of the world, you know, concentrated there, we've got to go there. You know, it's better for the manufacturers if they're wanting to sell bikes, that we have to go there. And I mean, nobody wants to see empty grandstands. You know, it's great to see. Like even on test days here, we have big crowds. So no, it's a no-brainer. And I hope in the future we have Indonesia, you know, and more, you know, a couple more at least choices to go there.
This is footage that you're looking at now, actually, from the test here in Thailand. So this is the general public coming over just to watch the test. As we said before and we said yesterday, they're expecting 30,000 people potentially turning up here tomorrow. I can tell you, Simon, having been to the Chang International Circuit for the very first World Superbike event back in 2015, we were commentating just above the main grandstand on the home straight. And the place was absolutely shaking. In the commentary box, you could feel the table moving like this just from the atmosphere that the Thai fans were putting in. So can you imagine what it's going to be like when we get there in October?
MotoGP Sunday, yeah. I look forward to it. Magic. It's like we were saying, it's a tough race, you know, to manage, and I think we're going on to that a bit later. You know, to race in that temperature takes a lot. It's a lot hard for the mechanics. Like we were saying, it's hard for the mechanics to figure out setup-wise because of lack of grip, and that's a problem in those temperatures. But also hard for the riders, you know. So that's something. It's tough, you know. But for everyone else that can, you know, gets to watch, perfect.
Let's have a look then at a little video here of the MotoGP growth in Asia as it continues to grow.
First of all, it's pretty cool that it's coming a boom, it's coming more famous and it's growing. This is overall positive for everybody, you know, in this sport, for the riders or for the teams or for whoever, you know. So this is very positive, that's cool, I like it.
When MotoGP Dorna announced that we will come in Thailand, we already say that was important because we have the feedback on the social media. Many people that is following MotoGP, and yeah, already in the airport, some fans are waiting you. Honestly, it's important for Honda, for Yamaha, for all the manufacturers to be in this part of the world.
It's really important for us to be racing in Thailand. It's a very important market. Also, we sell a few thousand bikes here, so we're very glad to be coming with MotoGP. We already here with Superbike since 2015, but you know, MotoGP is really the pinnacle of motorcycle racing, and it's very important for Ducati to be here.
As the business and the wealth grows amongst the general population, that means that they can afford, firstly, to buy a motorcycle or more motorcycles or higher specification, but also then they can afford to get engaged and involved in motorsport. So it's a very important area of the world market-wise for us. And now we're really pushing also from Yamaha side, like Honda is doing also with their you know, Asian Talent Cup. And we spend a lot of energy and effort here to develop this motorsports culture. So these are all indications and signs of the fact that the motorsports culture is growing and developing, but it's based on solid business.
For me, it's really good because, you know, I'm Japanese, and also now the young kids, young riders growing up because the MotoGP take care of the Asian Talent Cup, you know. In Japan, also in Asia, it's not like in Europe, especially in Spain, Italy, but it's, let's say, it's now little by little, but I think the people understand what is the MotoGP.
Here MotoGP is growing so much in the last years. We have so many fans, and they are pushing, you know, so it's great to have now another GP close to this area, and I'm just expecting to see this moment on the GP.
You only had to stay in the hotel last night to hear the racing they do outside on the little underbone bikes. Till about 3 a.m. I think they were still racing, but it sounded like we were right at the circuit, but we were 1 kilometre away. But yeah, it was really cool.
We are very lucky about that because in Europe, especially in Europe, for us is a long time. We are famous and there is a big support. For example, from Indonesia, and we never race there, is something help our sport. I'm always happy to change the track, to try new things, to know a little bit more about a new country.
To walk around, you see many scooters, little scooters and stuff like that, full of passion for the two wheels. When we come here, we receive a lot of love from the fans. They make you feel like a rock star, so it's great when you see they're enjoying so much.
I don't know really how you feel when you're a rock star, but for sure I'm really proud to be MotoGP World Champion, and it's nice to be with Asian people who are always very respectful with the riders, and we are very happy to be also in this nice country of Thailand.
Great stuff there as MotoGP continues to grow in that region. Simon, just quickly recapping on that, you know, whenever you go to these parts of the world, and obviously we're lucky enough to travel there, you see mopeds and scooters everywhere with Repsol Honda colours, Valentino Rossi colours, Maverick Vinales, likewise all the way through. These guys just want to be their heroes.
Well, it's much more part of their culture, bikes, you know. I did a season and a half in Malaysia, and I saw how, I mean, it's part of their transport. Anyone that's travelled in Asia will know, you know, that you see whole families on bikes right through to the guys on more sporty versions of those small bikes just tearing around, and it's, like I said, part of their culture more than ours, so it's bigger.
Of course, we come to Thailand, as I said before, on October the 7th, and then a couple of weeks after that, we're in Japan, and then we've got Malaysia as well. It's going to be like a festival in that part of the world when we get there, and hopefully this championship is going to be wide open when we get there as well. Now, there are some issues when you're going to these parts of the world as well that you do have to take into consideration, and that is, of course, the weather conditions, and particularly the heat. this should give you a bit more of an idea about that.
And I went out, it was 3:30, and I had really strange feeling to feel the air was so warm, and really like a sauna that when you blow on your skin, it's not burning but really hot, and it was this same kind of feeling.
In general, humidity affects, together with the temperature itself, the humidity is another factor that affects the kind of feeling for the rider and also the sweating.
The grip of the track is quite good. The heat is super, I mean, one of the worst I ever tested.
The temperature is really high, and also track temperature is, more than 50 degrees, so it was really hot, of course. But for me, it's a little bit less humidity compared to Sepang.
Sincerely speaking, here is more easy than in Malaysia. Malaysia was more difficult because in Malaysia the humidity is always around 90-95%. Here, when you breathe, you feel a little bit of oxygen. In Malaysia, zero. And also, physically speaking, this track is less demanding, it's a bit more easy, so you can make a longer run, you can also understand a bit better, but it's 35 minutes, so not easy.
In this kind of environments, the recommendation is always the same, which is to keep hydrated, to drink a lot, because we saw in the past that the riders during practices, they were losing kilos in terms of waters. Some of them, they were taking the weight before and after the practice, and they lost during a long run about 2 kilos of water.
The hot is unbelievable. At the lunchtime was no sun, was like fire. But sincerely, very easy on this track to do 8-10 laps in a row. For me, it's easy to do 8 laps here than 2 or 3 in Malaysia. This track is not physically. Actually, the first 50% of the track, you are inside the bike, full throttle, and you work a little bit for 2Ks, just 2Ks. So it's not very, I will say, if it was not hot like this, will be the less demanding physical track of the calendar.
Some great rider reactions there to the heat and the temperatures, and of course all of these different parts and elements that they have to deal with when they travel to Thailand, Malaysia, and likewise. Simon, obviously you've raced in that part of the world. Different riders reacting in different ways, but one thing that is always key, as we just heard there from Dr. Sasa, I mean, riders losing up to 2 kilos on a long run, rehydration absolutely key. And we've been talking off air a bit about this, and you were telling me that it didn't come easy to you to work out exactly how to get this rehydration sorted.
No, I raced the Malaysian Superbike Championship for a year and a half, won it the second year before I came to Europe, and it was basically my apprenticeship on the Superbike. And the first time, I think I mentioned yesterday, the first race I did there, I couldn't last the race, I by midway I had to roll off, and my head wasn't working properly. It felt dangerous. I was going to fall off. You couldn't you just can't cope. I think it's dehydration, heat, and because you come from a colder climate, I understand your blood is thicker, it takes a couple of weeks to thin. And so once I started racing that championship full time, I experimented, and this is how I managed it. For example, because of that first race problem, I thought, right, I'm not hydrated enough, so you drink a lot. And you go out on the next time race, I was struggling not to be sick in my helmet with a full stomach, and then towards the end of the race you need to go to the bathroom, and I thought, that's a nightmare. So bit by bit you learn. In the end, the way to do it is you have a drink bottle in your hand and non-stop sip, 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 keep yourself hydrated, keep going to the bathroom right up to 40 minutes before the race, then stop drinking, and that what you have in your stomach gets into your blood and bladder. You know, right before you get on the bike, you go to the bathroom, so you're empty, but your blood's full of water, and then it was no problem. And once I figured that out, you could cope with it. But before, it was very hard. Like I'm talking, you can't do it, without figuring out how.
I might have to take that on board, because I have to be honest, when we went to Sepang, we walked the circuit. I walked up to turn 3 and I was flat out. I mean, I needed to find a way back. It was absolutely ridiculous. Valentino was just talking there about the different elements between Thailand and Malaysia as well. He's saying Malaysia's far worse. And I can understand why. The humidity up to 95% in comparison to like a really hot, dry heat like we're experiencing in Thailand.
Yeah, he's right. Japan, same. You know, Suzuka was the same sort of humidity as Malaysia, 90-something. And it's right down to you sweat so much, your skin gets soft, and then it blisters. So you end up having a blister on every part that touches the bike. No exaggeration. They will have the same.
If you're just joining us here today, we've just been talking about rehydration and the heat, of course, in Thailand. One man that's not feeling the heat is Marc Marquez, who's the first rider to get under a 1:30, a 1:29.9 for the birthday boy who turns 25 today. There you can see on your screen. Happy birthday to Mr. Big Six. Of course, he's won now 6 of those world championships, and 25. That's all he is, Simon. That is incredible, isn't it? When you think he's won 6 world championships, and only today he turns 25.
He's scary good, you know, isn't he? He's on target to be, you know.
Well, if he continues to the same age as Valentino Rossi, he's got another 14 years left in him.
I know. Everyone will be worried about him. So, like I said, hopefully, the last thing I would like is that Honda have an advantage, and they've got Marc, and you know that's not what we want. We want this good fight to continue. Like for me, last year was the best I've ever seen, you know, Grand Prix. But this is really interesting. I was watching Marc on track earlier, and I've spent a lot of time since stopping riding, spotting for riders, and I noticed how little front weight he's got. Like the bike brakes really well, but look how soft and low it is in the back. You know, you can see that rear wheel moving, and I think they're searching for grip, rear grip, and also to make the bike stop well. You know, you don't have too much front weight. You keep it a bit more on the back so you can brake harder, you know, if that makes sense. And the more front weight you have on, you can't stop it. And I think it looks like he's pretty happy with the bike setup.
And is it a surprise to you, like it is to most of us, just how often that he crashes and seems to get up without even being hurt? I mean, every single round we go to, he tests the limits in free practice, but gets it nailed on for race day.
I don't think he'll want to continue that. His team won't want to, but it's fantastic he got away with it. But if you keep doing that, you end up missing the rest of the season with one of the injuries. You know, he was lucky enough to get away with 27 or something last year. I think the number was. It was pretty high. You can't continue like that. He's getting older, mature. You know, year by year, he'll stop it. He will.
How strong do you have to be though? Because I mean, he literally, just as it looks like he's crashed pretty much, and he's able to pick himself up. I mean, how strong do you have to be? I know that you're not necessarily testing bikes to that speed at the moment, but how difficult is it?
No, it's a natural reaction. You know, when you're riding.
Simon, I'm going to interrupt you there because we have the birthday boy himself live now down in Thailand. Over to you.
Well, Marc, 2 very good reasons for you to be smiling today. Firstly, your 25th birthday, so for millions of MotoGP fans all around the world, happy birthday, and a happy time on track as well. Hard work today, 90 laps, but top of the timesheets with a 1:29. Almost the perfect day.
Yeah, of course. First of all, thank you, because I received many messages from my birthday, and of course, it's not. I cannot ask more. No, the best way to celebrate my birthday is on the bike, because it's where I enjoy more. So today was a good day. We tried many things. Like always, we start to play in the beginning of the day a little bit with the setup, with some new things. Then we play more, or we try some different rear tires that Michelin bring here, and it was not so bad. And then in the end of the day, we put our best package, and we start to be again faster. We will see tomorrow, because looks like every time, and track is better, and also everybody's faster.
And also today there's quite an interesting aero battle going on in MotoGP. As always, today you tried some different solution from Honda. Was it positive or negative, or a bit of both?
Yeah, of course, it's a tight fight, because if you saw many riders in 1 second. We are pushing. Everybody's trying to find the limits, and you know it's the thing when you have 3 days testing. I mean, you find the best setup, then it's easier to be faster and faster all the time. But yeah, about the race. We concentrate in my garage, and we did a great job. Still tomorrow we try few things. We have few things to try and continue on that way.
Well, great job today, Marc. Happy birthday again. I think Honda need to give you a bigger cake now.
Yeah, of course. This after dinner, I will eat some cake because I deserve it.
Thanks there to Matt interviewing Marc Marquez. That's live from Thailand, the birthday boy. And yeah, go and get yourself some cake. Don't eat too much though. You've got another job to do tomorrow. With the brilliance that we talk about, Marc Marquez just goes on and on and on. You were talking about some of the stuff that you've seen with him over the winter. Watching the documentaries. I mean, in particular, you were talking about From Severa to Tokyo, which is a brilliant documentary.
I really recommend people watch it. It's on the website. And before I watched it, I mean, put it this way, once you watch it, you feel like you know Marc better. And I really think that's worth it, you know. He comes across, you'd see his dedication, how he's living for this. And I think it's great, like really worth watching. Severa to Tokyo is the name of it.
Yeah, it's on Motogp.com. It's a brilliant documentary. The guys behind the scenes here have done such a great job. And I'm pleased to tell you as well that there is another documentary coming. It's on its way. It will be with you in early March, looking at never seen before footage of Marc Marquez on his way to the 2017 title. That will be coming in early March, so keep your eyes out for that.
Speaking about Marc's amazing reactions, you know, we started speaking about it before he came on live there. As a rider, you don't plan that. There isn't enough time, you know. It's not like you go, oh, if I lose the front, I'm going to save it. You just ride and ride. And when you lose grip in the front there, it's like a reaction of someone's given you a fright, you know, and your knee goes out and you go, oh, and it's total luck if that front grips back again. And all you're trying to do is give it a chance to come back, you know, and make sure you're not. But the frequency which Marc got away with it last year, and it was just amazing, isn't it? You know, that he's prepared to push it there again and get away with it. It's awesome.
Well, Marc Marquez and Repsol Honda as a combination is a force to be reckoned with and has been for many years now. And of course, Repsol Honda are really looking to keep Marc Marquez in that saddle for 2019 and beyond, because let's be honest, everyone is going to be after the signature. So let's now hear the thoughts of Alberto Puig to see what he makes of contract renewal.
Well, I know it sounds strange, but at the moment, our priority now is to make the testing here, to make a good test, to understand our bike, to make that the riders are happy with the bike. And this is, from our point of view, the most important. Of course, what you say is true, but yeah, we know Marc is been racing for Honda for long, so our priority at this moment is to think what we are going to do now. And yeah, this is what I can tell you, because this is sounds strange, but it's the truth. We want now to make the best package possible, and if he's happy with our bike, then should be, I mean, the correct way to treat our riders, to give them a good product. After that, it's up to people to take their own choices.
Okay, well, thanks there to Marc Marquez, Simon.
I really like what Alberto said. There's a couple of things I totally agree with on him, you know, that he's saying. He's not worrying about, oh, quickly sign this, Marc. He's worrying about what matters, you know. Go out, do the best they can in this test, and at the end of it, you know, in the time where he's thinking of signing, if he's happy with the bike, happy with the team, happy with how Alberto's working, he's going to sign, you know. And you know what I'm saying. There's no point going, oh, fussing about that. Concentrate on the job, and then Marc will scribble on. He's also said that he considers both riders equal. He doesn't want, like the last manager said, like Marc's the man, but then he supports him. And I think that's bad. Human nature is that, hey, that's not fair, you know. I'm a racer too, and that I think is brilliant. Both riders, equal opportunity, and we'll see who shines.
Let's not forget Alberto Pucci and Dani Pedrosa have history together as well. I mean,
Yeah, I don't think it's that, though. I really think this is... he knows what it's like to be a rider, and not all riders will make good team managers, but he knows how riders feel, and he's doing it the right way. I think it's brilliant.
Looking at footage here of Dani Pedrosa, just getting a corner slightly wrong there, but Dani, as ever, he's looking strong. He'll be really encouraged, I'm sure, by Honda's progression during the winter, because you know that Dani, if he can get off to a consistent start and he stays injury-free, then he is going to be a threat. Do you think there's any chance, I mean, although they're treating them equally at this moment in time, do you think Marc Marquez has any influence at all on who sits next to him in that bike?
That's a good question. Obviously, I mean, I'd like to say no, and the team is more, what's the word, they won't be affected. But, yeah, you can imagine if Marc says, I don't want him there, right when he's going to sign, they're going to consider that because they need Marc to sign. But I doubt whether it'll come to that, I don't think Marc would... The thing that Marc will, like all riders that want to win a world championship, will consider is how good his teammate is at doing the testing, so he doesn't get loaded with all of it. I think that's important.
As we mentioned at the start of the show, a lot of riders and teams have been demonstrating their new aero packages here today on day 2 in Thailand. So we're going to get some footage of that. As we mentioned before, Ducati have been comparing fairings. We'll get shots of those. Suzuki, Honda, everybody's been having a little play, especially now, Simon, as they've got track familiarisation kind of out of the way on day 1.
Yeah, listening to all the rider comments, it's pretty much what I expected yesterday. It's all inconclusive. Nobody that I've heard, no rider that I've heard have said, yep, that was great. They've all go, we've got to test it again. It's not like as Dovi said, it's not like a suspension or a bike setup thing. It's more about some tracks this will work, some it won't. We've got to keep retesting it. So I'm not surprised to hear that.
One thing's for sure, Alex Rins and Andrea Iannone going out to test the new fairings and throwing it up the road isn't exactly the best way to start.
That's what fairings are for, and what tests are for. They've got to, now they know how the thing copes with it. And like I said, every day the riders have to push 100% to find good feedback.
And Danilo Petrucci, we talked about him yesterday. You're looking at him on screen now, testing the new aero packages, much like the other factory riders. He seems to have made a step forward.
Yeah, like I said yesterday, I want to see this man at the front again. We need to. Speaking about the aero package, how it affects it, like I always say, the most important thing, the thing that rider works on all the time is bike setup balance, how much weight it's got on the front to rear. So, and this track seems really critical, like you've got to set it up for the hard braking, but also you've got to set it up for the flowing and keep it turning, and with the aero packages, the riders are saying it puts more front weight on it, so you have to readjust suspension or bike balance to suit that, because if you get it perfect running through a fast turn and you think, oh, that's bang on, it's not going to push the front, and then you put the aero package on, it loads the front a bit more, it's going to lose the front, then you have to, we'll put a bit more in the back. It's a compromise, and I've noticed with rider comments at this track that it is a compromise between the hard braking section and the flowing section. You've got to find the bike set up for both.
Right. Are you ready, Simon, for fan questions?
Here we go. I'm looking forward to it.
This is a moment last year you may well have seen from the press conferences where we get to ask riders questions. Well, we've got one here. We've got one from Amanda. You can just see on the bottom of your screen there. What are the most difficulties riders found on Chang International Circuit? So what are the most difficult things that riders are facing here at this circuit?
Well, we've already talked about the heat. That's a big one. Then the heat, there's probably 3 things I'd say. There's the heat, then there's how that heat affects tyres, and managing that for bike setup to make the tyre get to the end of the race and those crazy temperatures. But the standout thing for me is what I just mentioned. This track has 2 types of style sections, so you have to, if it had 1 it'd be easier. It has 2, so you've got to set it up for the braking, like I just said, and you've got to set it up for the more flowing, keep it turning as well. Basically, if you set it up good for the brakes only, it won't turn, and that's the hard bit. the compromise.
Now, I hope you're aware that I am going to throw a curveball question in here somewhere. I mean, we can't just talk about normal, sensible things. I mean, we did have pizza toppings as a question last year for Valentino Rossi. Don't worry, we're not going to ask you about that. Next question is from Joe. How beautiful do you think this new track is on a scale of 1 to 100? Be careful what you say. We've got a lot of fans from Thailand here.
I mean, all we can go on. Sorry, but we've already covered it. It's the riders are saying it's quite easy, aren't they? I mean, they're the ones to listen to. They're the ones riding. So, like they're saying, it's on the easy side to learn. It's just hard, you know, on that side. But physically, they're saying it's easy to learn from Zarco. The temperature's terrible. Sorry, we've pretty much covered that. But your guess on 1 to 100 is as good as mine. We've just got to go on what they said.
Okay, well, there's that question answered. We are going to move on to another question now, I believe. We've got one from Andy Course. Often we hear riders saying that the limiting factor is not chassis or engine, but electronics. How are modern-day electronics helping and hindering a rider to go fast? It's a good question.
That's a cool question. I would like to answer it really long. I'll try and, because it's a tricky one. Look, in the end of the day, most riders don't really like the interference of electronics, but the thing is that it helps grip, like rear grip wise, so it's so important, and it helps we've got so much horsepower now, and it's very physical and difficult to manage the wheelie. So it helps with that. You know, the big thing as well is safety, like if you have the rear lets go before you can catch it as a human, the machine will help you. You know, you'll go, I'm glad that was there. You know, I would have got caught, and so those are the positives. The main thing is that it doesn't interfere too much. If it does interfere with the rider too much, it just makes it slow. For example, if a rider doesn't help the bike...
Having a good drink now. I think you've definitely earned it after another long, hard day here in Thailand, and another solid day on track, Cal. Improve your lap time by about 0.3 compared to yesterday. Great day again for Honda. Mark and Danny first and second. Personally, how did it go today?
Yeah, not too bad, to be honest, Matt. One of the highlights of the day was obviously riding past you and revving it up. But no.
Don't worry, mate. You know what they say, revenge is a dish best served sweet. It's coming.
No, we didn't have a great day, to be honest. We had some issues, excuse me, that meant we wasn't able to ride at our full potential this morning. Then we. I was not able to set a good lap time. I had too many things to test and too many things to do. But overall, we're pleased. With the old used tyres and over the day, then we've been happy with our pace. There's no doubt about that. If it was a race tomorrow, I think we'll be on the podium. But we just never had the out-and-out lap time like yesterday. I was confident if we needed to, or if I was allowed to do a lap time, I could have got into the 29. But that's the way it is. I'm not really too worried in the moment. We have to continue to work tomorrow because we did too many things that were not in the plan today. That wasn't really anybody's fault, to be honest. It was just one of those days.
Busy day as always in testing. A lot of work to do for Honda, a lot of work as well by the sounds of it to do for Michelin. Of course, they're here to gather crucial data information ahead of the race here in October. I think there was 4 new tyres or 4 different specs of tyres that came in the allocation today. Were you able to get through some of that work and have any positive findings?
We made a general mistake early in the morning, to be honest, with our tyre selection. One that we needed to do some long runs on, so that was our own fault, particularly in the garage, our choice. And then the allocation is just tight with the tyre that we like. That's the problem. So then I tested one of the test tyres and used that up. We have another one to try as well, but I also tried the one of the rear tyres and was quite surprised by it because it never worked in the way that we thought it was going to work, but we were able to ride with it, and that's why we're here. We're here to test, and we try and do our best job for Michelin we can as well, because we know it's important to get things right for the race.
And just one final thing, after the incident with the pit lane reporter earlier on, all I can say is watch your back.
Yeah, well, they're dodgy, these pit lane reporters. They stand in the middle of the road. Yeah, next time I'm going to properly get you.
Thanks, Cal. Thanks, appreciate your time.
Thanks to Matt Burt there, and to Cal Crutchlow as well. That's live in Thailand. Sorry that we interrupted the questions there. Cal, not really happy with today after a positive day yesterday. Day 2, not so good. And looks like the only real talking point is the fact that he tried to wipe out and distract our pit lane reporter here today, Matt Burt. So sorry to interrupt you and cut you off short there.
Hey, not a problem. I'll be better at spotting that something coming next time. Just to finish up on the electronics, just for Andy, I think it was. The big thing that I love about the electronics is that a young guy like Siren can come in and not crash, which that's how it used to be, you know, with that much power, without help from electronics, it would happen, you know, everyone was waiting for it. Now they have that safety thing, the tyre management, the anti-wheelie, but the thing I wanted to get across was it's only, like, if the rider isn't really doing his job, he can actually go faster without it. But it's going to crash and you're going to destroy tyres. A good rider will go faster without it. If you, for example, if you sit back a little bit too much on the bike will wheelie, you've got to shut the throttle and you're going to be slower. If you sit back with electronics, it'll reduce the power. So you think, oh, I'm doing all fine, but it just will go slower down the straight. So in the end, you still have to do your job. It just supports you. The bad thing about electronics is if the rider doesn't have it nowadays, have as good a package, he can't be as competitive, you know, or he'll crash it, which, you know, there's the haves and have-nots a little bit. But I hope I answered it.
Okay, well, I think you certainly did, Andy. You've got a fairly decent response there from Simon Crafar. We'll just have one more question before we move on, and we might come back to them in a bit as well. Next question is from Zik. How do you rate Happy Siren's performance? Well, you just mentioned him. Has he done enough to get the ride for the year, in your opinion, Simon?
He has definitely done enough to go on to the next test at Qatar, and that's in my opinion. You know, he's done really well. He hasn't crashed it. He's gone a little bit quicker each day. He's only, I don't know the exact amount off, but it's not too bad. And they will give him another chance at the Qatar test. I'll be very surprised if he doesn't get to do Qatar race. And continue on for there. Obviously, they're hedging their bets a little bit, but, you know, you have to consider that he's from the right region where the Yamaha sell a lot of bikes, and I wouldn't be surprised if there was a sponsorship from that region as well. So, you know, good for him. He's got a really good opportunity. I'll be surprised. He's doing well. I'll be surprised if he's not on it.
He's looking pretty relaxed on the bike, as you can see the footage there on screen, Hafiz Siren, although he did have a bit of a tumble in today's session. I understand that he is absolutely okay. But yeah, Hafiz Siren did fall here today. There you can see the bike, that's not looking so well, but good reports. Yeah. I mean, that's going to happen, isn't it, Simon? It's just part of the process.
Fully expect it, you know. And the main thing is, I mean, it's more than likely a front, you know, lose, not like the high sides when there wasn't any electronics. And he's fine. He's just finding the limits.
I'm pretty sure Marc Marquez would back up as well. If you're not crashing, you're not going fast enough. That's something that he said last year, by the way, not me.
Yeah.
So there you go, Hafiz Siren. I hope that one's answered your question, Zik. As we return, I don't know if we've got time for another question or not. If we have, I'm sure it'll appear on the screen. Yes, we do. Okay. Why will Moto E be introduced in 2019? Well, just to kind of elaborate on that, we had the launch for Moto E in Rome just last week or a couple of weeks ago. It will be in the championship full-time in 2019. Simon, your thoughts?
I've never ridden one, but I really look forward to it. I get to ride it at Qatar at the first race. Basically, this year they're having a kind of a show of the bike at each race, so people can see what it's about. And they're having an invitation guy riding. I get to ride it at Qatar, and I so look forward to let you know what that experience is like. I've heard they're super fast and lacking in noise, but that's all I know.
So, effectively, will you be riding under the night lights? Will we be able to call you the Night Whisperer?
Actually, you know,
the good bit about these electric bikes, some people don't like the lack of noise. But as I said to Steve earlier, well, I used to have to leave my motorcycle right down the road and sneak to my girlfriend's house. Now you'll be able to pull it right up and lean it on the fence, wouldn't you?
Well, I was wondering if that would make it into the live show, and there you have it. It has a big advantage. Yeah, Moto, we will be with us in 2019, and excited about it. We are too. So, I think that's enough for now for fan questions. What we can do, though, we spoke at the start of the show to Matt about the concerns for Maverick Vinales. Now, he did pop up to 4th place earlier on. So let's see whether or not he's happy. Matt is with Maverick now.
Time sheets here today in Thailand. So a more positive day than yesterday, where you found learning the Thailand track a little bit more challenging than what you might have anticipated.
Well, honestly, it took so long time to understand the way to go on the bike, maybe too much. And until the afternoon, I don't start to feel good on the bike, feeling that I can ride on the good pace. But anyway, at the last moment we changed some things. It seems to improve. Maybe it is the way to follow. Tomorrow we're going to confirm.
Where do you feel that you made the most significant step today, Maverick?
Well, especially following my feelings, following my own setup. And that's what I feel good when I have my bike and when I can ride as my riding style. So tomorrow we're going to check. Now we have to improve the rhythm. I think we did an incredible step in the afternoon, already on 30 on the rhythm, and that's the most important.
A lot of work to get through, as always, at a test. I think Michelin came with 4 different rear tyres again today. Were you able to make some clear assessment of those, or try at least some of them?
Yeah, we tried the 8 spec with another 4 hitting up different, and for me it's still not really good. I prefer the old, that the tire didn't get so much temperature, the old style. But anyway, still tomorrow we have 2 more tires to try, we will see.
Thanks, Maverick, appreciate that.
Yeah, thanks there to Matt Burt and to Maverick Vinales. So a slight improvement towards the end of the day for Maverick, but as you can probably see from the body language, all is not well at this moment in time, and it's a bit difficult for Yamaha. And they're running out of time, let's be honest. Qatar is just around the corner. We're 27 days away from free practice 1. So let's try and dig a little deeper, shall we, and see if we can find out a bit more from Maverick Vinales crew chief Ramon Focada.
Yeah. So when we saw the layout, looks like it should be a good track for us, but we're struggling a lot on the rear grip. Then here it's quite hard braking. If we don't have a rear grip, it's struggling for braking, and we are trying to find a good setting, mainly on the back side of. Also, the tires they bring is not the perfect one. Someone is working well on the right, someone working well on the left, and then we have to find that combination. For sure, for the Grand Prix will be different tire, but we are struggling a little bit on the rear grip.
Okay, well, there you hear it. There are some struggles, although you just heard there, Simon, maybe some encouragement at the end. He's happy with the time.
Well, you'd have to be, wouldn't you? Like I said, I'm happy to see him creeping back up the screen, and they're making progress, Not like Sepang was going backwards, they're going forward again.
And I mentioned earlier to Matt about the word panic, and he was saying there's no panic yet. But, I mean, we are running out of time, aren't we? Yeah. It's getting closer and closer. 27 days is not a long time since we've really got to start getting serious there.
Well, yep, you did right. At the end of the day, what they're testing here is for that track, and it doesn't mean that Maverick can't turn up and win at Qatar like last year, They've got good base setting obviously there from last year, and I wouldn't be surprised if it goes really well. What they're doing here is for Thailand, but yeah, it's super important for when they come back for the race.
And next door we heard Matt say that maybe there aren't quite the celebrations for the 39th birthday for Valentino Rossi. A lot of work to do, so why not now hear from his crew chief Silvano Galbacera.
Yeah, the feeling is not very bad for the track. He said a little bit too easy for him. We need a little bit more some technical corner, but anyway we are in a good way. We need to adjust a little bit electronic because we are one step behind top factory, so we need to work on that area.
That's an interesting comment. I heard Zarco mention this as well, this phrase too easy. And obviously they've got to come here to test the new circuit so that they can get everything in place ready for the round in Thailand later in the year. But Silvano, they're saying that this isn't what Valentino needs in order to make the step forward for the season.
No, what it is if it's an easy track, like Zarko said, everyone can figure it out. Everyone can find their way. The times are real close. They'll have a big battle, which is great for us. But Valley wants to use his experience as a rider to figure out some technical advantage, you know, like he'll know how to manage some corner or bike setup and get an advantage on his opposition. When it's an easy track, he doesn't have that advantage, you know, that's it.
We're looking at shots of Rossi on screen now. Do you think in any way, because I know there'll be people asking this, do you think in any way this will cloud his judgment on his decision? Will the way the Yamaha is set up between now and Qatar be the decision, or do you think he's already made the decision? It's just a matter of when, not if.
I mean, I'm guessing, obviously, but I'll be very surprised if he doesn't sign and carry on, because in general he wants to still ride, doesn't he? You know, and we haven't seen any indication that he feels otherwise. So he'll sign. I think. We'll be super surprised if he doesn't.
Let's cross over back to Thailand now, and Matt Burt is talking to one of the revelations that we've spoken about so much already in 2018, Alex Rins.
Alex, another busy and eventful day here for you in Thailand. Let's start off with the positives. Another good, strong lap time, and you got the chance today to assess the new Suzuki fairing. What were your first impressions of that? It looks quite different.
Yeah, for sure. Looks quite different. I think today was really positive test. We tried many things, as you can see. We tried two kind of fairings, no? Also new parts on the chassis, and I think that was really good. Yeah.
In which area did you feel that was the most positive, certainly from the fairing?
Well, about the fairing, I think that I felt better on the wheelie. No, you know, finally with the MotoGP bike has a lot of electronics parts, and all the time that the front wheel are on the floor, no, we have more power, no, than not on the floor. So this one helped me to have more acceleration and more speed.
And I guess that's absolutely crucial when you look at the layout of this circuit. Crucial for the exit of turn 1, turn 2, and turn 12. That must be where you felt the most benefit.
Yeah, exactly.
And the chassis upgrades, in which area did you feel that they were a step compared to 2017?
Well, this chassis I tried before on Malaysia and also in Jerez, no, and more or less we don't see a big difference, no. On the lap time it's very similar, no, but we need to adjust more.
And unfortunately today there was one crash at turn number 7. Unfortunately for you as well, our cameraman were there to catch it on TV. Thankfully you were perfectly okay, but what happened?
No, just it's difficult to say because on data I don't did nothing strange, you know, maybe a little bit out of the line, but was without consequence, no, that this is important, and also was a fast crash.
Many thanks, Alex. Good to see you're okay after that crash.
As well as his riding improving all the time, Simon, just quickly on Alex Rins as well, I've noticed a sort of slightly different mentality as well. He's sort of past the fun stage, the honeymoon period, where he's got this massive smile on his face, and I'm sure he's still enjoying himself, but you can see, hang on, this is serious business now.
That's a really good point. Like, you know, the fans expect the riders to come across, you know, like we all think they've got the best job in the world. How can they not be happy, you know, and they can be pretty, you know, and so that's hard to understand, but it's so serious. Like I was saying, it's the most important thing in their life, and when it's not going to plan, even if it is, they just think, you know, how do I get better, how, you know, and I think it's a difficult thing to manage, this seriousness of the job and coming across, you know, how you should to the fans, you know.
Well, let's find out exactly how serious his crew chief makes of matters and how impressed he's been with Alex Rins. Jose Manuel Scissor.
Manu, it was always important for Alex to build on the momentum that he gained after that strong performance in the first test 2 weeks ago in Malaysia, and he did it yesterday, second place on the time sheets, only Cal Crutchlow faster. Why do you think Alex and the Suzuki seem to have suited this track so quickly?
Well, I think, as we said in Sepang, no, we finished the year in Valencia building some working method, taking out some performance from the bike, and we continue with this momentum. Here yesterday, the target was to understand quickly the track and make some base setup. So when he get the pace and the pace was good, we also tested some engine solution to confirm that 2019 direction is the correct one.
Thanks there to Matt and to Manor as well. So there's plenty to discuss about Alex Rins. It will be interesting to find out how this is all going to develop between Rins and Iannone, as we mentioned yesterday, because there's that struggle in the dynamics between rider and crew chief as well. So let's see exactly how that works out for Rins. What are your thoughts on that?
I think you know my feeling that he's third time I'll say it, super talent from Moto 2. Suzuki are working really hard. Like they're turning up with lots of new parts for him to try. They've got a full-time test rider in Guintoli, who's an older, more experienced guy, knows what he's doing, and they're trying to give him the opportunity to stand on that box this year.
We'll move on to Jack Miller. We keep on talking about this Australian rider, Simon. It is unbelievable what he is achieving. From the moment he jumped on the Ducati in Valencia, he just continues to improve and improve. He's done it again. He's up there inside the top 3 or 4. It's almost getting to the point now where when we roll up in Qatar for round 1, we're expecting to see something, pretty good now. I mean, you were not going to be surprised, for example, if he's in the top 5.
I'm so happy, man. It's not because I'm down under and he is. We come from different countries. He was born in New Zealand. Anyway, I'm super happy because Jack Miller, we are finally seeing the natural ability and how good he can ride since the Moto 3. Once he left Moto 3, okay, apart from Assen and those crazy conditions, we haven't seen really what Jack can do, and now we are going to. I'm really happy because it's sad when you don't see a rider fulfill his potential in MotoGP, and I think we're going to see it this year. If he can stay uninjured, healthy, I think we're going to see it this year.
I'm not so sure if I'm a fan of the fishing hat that he keeps on wearing, but we're going to find out exactly what he made then of day 2. Now, just bear in mind, this interview was done earlier on with Jack Miller when he was 9th. He actually ended the day in 3rd overall, but let's hear from him now.
So, Jack, your first chance to assess the Chang International Circuit here in Buriram. Looks like it's been a positive start. What have been your first impressions of this new track?
Yeah, not too bad. Adapted to it pretty quickly. Did the lap time that we did this morning with 21 laps on the soft, so pretty happy with my pace on used tyres. And the circuit itself is very fast.
Is there any other track on the calendar which you can kind of compare it to?
A little bit like Austria, just minus the big elevation changes there. Here's quite flat, but quite a similar layout if you think of it.
And a lot of people on paper coming here to Thailand, Jack, felt like this would be a circuit that would suit Ducati, bearing in mind how strong they've been at the Red Bull Ring in Austria. Is that something that you found instantly here?
Yeah, definitely. I think we haven't quite. I think here, to do the best lap time, you have to be very, very patient. You got to give up a little or sacrifice a little bit on the braking in order to get that acceleration, especially with the Ducati. And I think that's something I'm just trying to wrap my head around at the moment. Be patient isn't one of my strong points, so just trying to work on that at the moment.
Okay. Jack, always cool to come to a new circuit here in Thailand.
So Jack Miller there just talking to Matt Burt. All is well then in the camp for the Pramac rider number 43 that you look at on screen at this moment in time. We spoke earlier about Danilo Petrucci as well, so we may as well just hear from the Italian, find out what he thinks of day 2. Oh, sorry.
I think we're going to see some big slides.
We are going to go to Danilo Petrucci now. Sorry about that.
So, Danilo, your first chance this morning to assess the Chang International Circuit here in Buriram. What have been your first impressions?
It's a very good track. We found the track this morning with a lot of grip, a lot of traction, so it's good because we was able to work with the tire and not to destroy it like usually in the new circuit. But the track is already in good condition, and I think we are going quite well. For sure, Marquez and Dovizioso are making the difference like last year. But anyway, we are quite close. We are fighting the MotoGP of the last 2 years. We saw a lot of riders in 1 second or in half a second, so even a tenth is very important. And here with few corners, it's very important to do all the corners in the perfect way, and we'll see in the afternoon tomorrow what will be our work. We didn't touch a lot on the bike. Is still good.
On paper, a lot of people thought coming here that this would be a track that would really suit the Ducati. Is that the case?
I hope so. We imagine a track with a lot of braking area. Yes. There are there are 2 or 3 maybe hard braking, but the other corners are very fast, very flowing. So it's important to have a bike that with a lot of load on the front, and this is good for us. We have to try a lot of things in the afternoon and tomorrow during this day. But at the moment, the bike we start and is okay.
Good day 2 then for Pramac Ducati. Before we move on to the rookie, Simon, you just wanted to say one last word on Jack?
Yeah, I predict that with Jack's confidence growing on that bike, that this year, with his natural ability and lack of fear, which is a bit like Marquez, we're going to see some impressive slow-mo stuff, because out watching on track last year at Aragon, just some of the slides and things. Just keep an eye out. I just wanted to tell the fans, keep an eye out for some of the things he does on the bike.
Well, the slow-mos that we have are absolutely brilliant, so we'll look forward to that. Let's see how some of the rookies are getting on, in particular the Moto2 world champion. Let's see if he's getting that Honda sliding. Franco Morbidelli on day 2.
Franco, are you pleased with the work done today?
Yes. Today we made a step. We had a really good pace with used tire. In fact, I made my best lap time with used tire. And unfortunately, when I went to make the time attack, my feeling wasn't great, and I wasn't improving. So we need to investigate why. I can be fast with used tires, but I can.
Tom, I think pretty busy day. I think you put over 70 laps during the whole day. So which are your assessments with this second day here in Thailand?
Yeah, the goal was to keep working on what we learned yesterday, I mean, I focused a little bit more in the braking area, especially yesterday I was more focused to learn on the out of the corner and the acceleration. And it was quite an interesting day. I could also follow a couple guys where I could see some different things, what to do. I'm still working on changing the style from Moto2 to the MotoGP bike. And it was, I mean, not in the result maybe, and not in the lap time, but overall it was a positive day, I have to say.
You were able to follow some Honda riders or some other manufacturer riders?
Yeah, I was behind Danny, and luckily I could follow there some laps. He was maybe not pushing that much in this moment, so that was really good for me and really interesting especially.
Which things you learned following, for example, Danny? Which things you saw?
Wow, many. Many. I mean, if you follow another rider, you can see it's not about braking. With these bikes you need really to focus on the exit. You need to try to use the power. You have so much power with these bikes, and try to use it as good as possible. And this is still what I'm doing wrong, I know exactly in theory what I'm doing wrong. I just need to do more laps and keep working on to understand even better on the bike when I have to do what, I have to do different.
Thank you, Tom, and good luck.
Thank you.
Two rookies for the price of one there. Sorry for the technical gremlins. We've got Franco Morbidelli and Tom Luthi. Just sticking with the two Estrella Galizia Mark VDS Honda riders, Simon. Franco Morbidelli comes up as a champion. He's had more time on the bike. We shouldn't discount the fact that is a situation for Tom Luthi. Whilst a lot of people are learning the track, Tom is still learning the bike.
Well, yeah, it's his first time on it, where Franco had a go at Jerez, didn't he, at the end of the season? Aren't they both really likeable fellas, really talented? You know, obviously they were fighting for the championship Moto 2 last year. But please, fans, consider that they are on the bikes of Jack Miller and, you know, and that's basically their position, Jack Miller and Tito of last year, and they've got it's a hard job ahead of them. You know, they haven't got the best bike in the race, super talented, and they've got to change their style, exactly how Thomas Luthi was explaining then, and he did it really well. Like, basically it's changing his style from a small bike, from curb to curb to curb, keeping that corner speed up, to more V-ing corners, so you get maximum out of the brakes, more stop, turn and fire it out using that power, you know, and that's what he has to learn and change his style.
Both riders approach their racing in completely different ways. I've seen that from Tom Luthi and Franco as you go through the season. Franco seems a pretty calm, collected guy, but he wants things to happen on circuit quickly. Tom is much more methodical. He's obviously got a lot more experience as well.
Yep, they're quite different, you know, like one's kind of Latin, the other's, you know, Swiss more, and one is young. And I think he's really reserved in the interviews, but I imagine he's not always like that, being a young, a young, hungry guy. But yeah, totally different guys, but they end up doing similar times in Moto 2. I hope they both just take it easy on them, you know, and I hope they have a good progression through to whatever they're going to do after.
Yeah, me too. I certainly would agree with that. Now, yesterday we told you, of course, the update on Pol Espargaro, the fact that he isn't here. Mika Kallio is testing the KTM, but their rider that is certainly here to play was Bradley Smith. Now, he wasn't going around the circuit so quick yesterday in a reasonably priced car with Matt Burt, but he was a lot quicker today on the KTM. Let's get Bradley's thoughts.
Bradley, first of all, we couldn't speak with you yesterday, so we tried the first impressions in this new layout with the KTM machine.
Yeah, to be honest, the Buriram track is it's fun. You know, it's very one line in a couple of places, but it's a lot of fun and quite challenging. We're able to set up the bike, I think, you know, and learn some things here. I was a little bit worried with the layout of the track that we wouldn't learn so much, but actually having ridden here, you know, I think we can make some good steps, and that will work at other racetracks, so that's good. You know, obviously it has a good variety. It has some hard braking in the beginning of the lap, and then more tight, twisty corners towards the end, high speed, low speed, so in general quite happy with that. I've adapted quite well. I mean, already on day one I felt quite comfortable, but we made some good steps also today for both riders as well. We had some issues in Malaysia that we found some solutions here already. Both me and Mika feel more comfortable, and we're sure that Pol will feel the same, so that's positive. And then towards the end of the day we tried some new things with the front suspension. And we'll continue to try that tomorrow because we ran out of time. So tomorrow will be mainly aimed towards the front end of the bike and trying to get from the 31s then into the 30s.
And regarding today, have you been trying long runs? You went out for fastest lap. What was more or less your testing plan for today?
As always with KTM, we have so much to get through. Our list is always longer than the time that we have. So yeah, it's really a case of testing and developing. We were able to try a test tyre in the rear of the bike for Michelin, just to get some information for them in consideration for the tyre allocation for October. And yeah, that's really it for the day.
Thank you, Bradley. Good luck.
It's a strange one, isn't it, for KTM, Simon? Just quickly going on this before we move over to another team. KTM spent last year, of course, learning new circuits. They were always behind the other teams, but you're kind of starting with a fresh piece of paper here because it's the same for everyone. And so KTM will be really interested to see where they are in their standings.
Yeah, like last year you did right. They had to, you know, choose gearboxes like everyone has to do here, but at every race, almost every race. But this year they're going in with more information. Having said that, they made massive progress last year, but it always is easier when you're 10 seconds off, you know, or you know what I'm saying. And as soon as it gets down to a couple of seconds, it's super hard, super expensive, hard, and technical. Like, yeah, it's going to be hard for them to improve once they get inside that top 10.
Now, yesterday, I have to say that Comment of the Day award goes to Johan Zarco when he said that riding in Thailand was like being in a sauna at 200 miles an hour. Brilliant stuff. He's here with his thoughts on day 2 with Matt Burt.
Johan, another really intensive day for you on track here in Thailand. Can you give us a summary of your second day here in Chiang in French, please?
Très content de cette deuxième journée. Le classement est nettement mieux, 5e, mais tous mes tours ont été rapides aujourd'hui. C'est ça qui est très bon. Pendant la journée, j'avais 15 tours sur un pneu et j'ai fait un super chrono. Et là, ça m'a donné beaucoup de plaisir parce que je me sentais bien sur la moto et c'est venu comme ça doit venir en fait tout le temps. Donc voilà, heureux de ce travail avec l'équipe. La moto, je la sens vraiment bien. Maintenant, pour aller en 1,29, il faut continuer de progresser parce qu'on atteint des limites que des petits ajustements peuvent faire la différence. Mais je suis content d'être déjà à ce niveau-là parce que c'est encourageant.
Merci.
Well, I've got good news and bad news for you. That was Johan Zarco, and if you're a French watcher, then hey, bonus. You've just listened to Johan Zarco. Unfortunately, I don't speak French, so the bad news is I cannot translate what Johan Zarco was just saying there to Matt Burt, but hopefully we can fix that problem another time. Johan Zarco in general, though, impressing as always, Simon, so it looks as though he's pretty comfortable. We said yesterday he's picked his chassis, he's focusing now, and it looks like he can move forward.
Isn't it funny how we looked at Johan like a rookie, like he was last year? Now you kind of look at it, I think everyone looks at him as a regular podium contender, you know, especially if obviously there's all the few factory boys, but I think we all know he can slot his bike in there on the box regularly.
Well, Johan Zarco was the fastest rookie last year, and a man that's trying to take that mantle away from him. And this year is Taka Nakagami. He's fastest again of the rookies. And hopefully he's here in English because I definitely cannot translate in Japanese.
Taka, again, the fastest rookie at the end of the day, and I think just 9/10 of the fastest lap. So I think you must be very, very pleased with the work done.
Yes, the finally end of the day. The last minute was I follow Marc because Marc tried to make a first test. And just I follow the completely one lap behind him, and really thanks to him because he looks behind, but let's say come, then I just follow. It's quite difficult because he did first at 29.9 and I did 30.9, so close to 1 second is faster than me. But let's say it's quite impressive to see him riding style, how it goes. So. Finally, it's quite really happy to be the rookie of the top, and let's say we must improvement for the exit of the corner, but it's quite good second day, and looking for the last day.
Which things have you learned following the World Championship in that lap?
It's many things, It's just I try to follow him, and he really strongest point is the braking, and also acceleration is quite strong. But let's say difficult situation. He had the new bikes, is completely different bike. But many things I learned from him, just only one lap. But I hope for tomorrow another guy, I try to follow some rider to run from the dam.
Thank you, Taka.
It gets criticism sometimes, Simon, that riders follow others. But when you're in this learning game, it's so crucial. And you can see he's learning from people. Some are actually willing to give him help. And in this rookie battle, it's going to be intriguing because Nakagami, Morbidelli, Luti, they're all on last year's World Championship winning bike of Marc Marquez. So we know it's a good bike. in that spec, but they're obviously not going to be taking that next level. So Rookie of the Year is the aim for Nakagami, and following riders obviously crucial to him.
Well, I think Nakagami's shining at the moment, isn't he? He's doing a really good job. The thing is, of course, riders won't mind him following, until he's challenging for results, and then it all changes. It's normal. But Marc's on a Honda, so is he. That's kind of part of the same team, family, keep the bosses happy. He won't mind at all. But I'll tell you what, if he's challenging to beat Marc in the future, it won't be like that.
No, well, we'll certainly find out. Now, earlier on, we talked to Johann Zarco in French. Well, now we're going to get a live rendition on a piano. Only joking. We are actually now going to hear from him in English.
Johann, another intense day of testing here for you in Thailand. You're number 5, P5 on the time sheets today, so got to be reasonably happy with that.
Pretty happy. Classification much better than yesterday. And the work anyway was pretty good this morning. Immediately a good lap time. I didn't do so many laps, but all my laps I did were fast. So I'm happy for that. And then try to improve the lap time, and still maybe with the new tire I'm not able to do the perfect lap, riding well the bike to be under 30, to go in 29. But I think tomorrow, with the work we are doing and the feeling I'm getting on the bike, it's possible to do.
What was the most pleasing aspect of the work you did today? We know that you've got obviously setup work to do to adapt the bike to this circuit, and I think Michelin also quite rightly have been asking you to carry out a lot of tyre testing. So what was the most pleasing aspect of today for you?
First we had to fix the gearbox. We had a different gearbox today and works immediately better. And then for the tires, always compare my opponents. I'm using softer tire than them. They can do 5 or 15 laps. Me, I can do the 26 laps of the race. So it's kind of good, but information for Michelin that in October condition will be different. We will not have all the soft tire that we are using now. But what made me the most happy today, it's after 15 laps of the tire, I did a really good lap time, the 30.6 during the day. Wow, that makes me really pleased, because then with new tire I cannot improve a lot. But just thinking that with a 15 laps tire able to feel good and lap time is coming, this makes you relax and happy.
Yeah, good job today, John. We look forward to seeing you more tomorrow.
Yeah, I echo those thoughts from Matt Burt. We all look forward to seeing him tomorrow and the season as well. This time last year, or similar time to this year, he led the opening stages of round 1 in his rookie season. And okay, he did have some problems, some gremlins midway through races, but it sounds like that's something that they've fixed. The rest of them best be worried.
Yep. Didn't he put it so well, exactly how it is, no, he's not top of the sheet, but how many guys out there can do after 15 laps? 30.6, right now. It's impressive.
I mean, Yamaha are in a strong position, obviously, with riders like Maverick Vinales and Valentino Rossi, but I mean, they have got some prized possession here, haven't they, in Johann Zarco?
Yep, we all know that. All the fans know it. He's great. Like I always say, his work ethic and his talent, the whole package, the bike he's got, the team he's got, he's a proper threat.
Well, another prized possession, sorry to interrupt, another prized possession for Honda is a man that they've had on their books now for quite some time. He's been racing in Motogp for over a decade. Let's hear now from Danny Pedrosa.
Well, Danny, looks like another positive day for you and for Honda. Your teammate Marc Marquez fastest, you were second quickest also. So what's been the most pleasing aspect of day 2 for you here in Thailand?
Yes, today we've been working a lot in the suspensions and trying to find a better setup for the bike, for the track. We know a little bit more the track from yesterday, so we adjust a few things on the bike, electronics and gearbox, and this already improved, was better. Also the riding, the corners, trying to get the correct speed. Still we have to work for some parts of the track, but the main thing I think at the end what we see is that the tires we are using we will not have in the GP, so we need to adapt also to the different tires we will have, and tomorrow, sure, we will work on some fairings and some stuff, some parts of the bike missing that today we didn't test.
A fast lap time today into the 129s with Marc. So where do you feel that you can still take a further step on the final day tomorrow?
Well, you never know. It's a new track, so we don't know exactly where is the limit and how much we can improve. We will have to work again tomorrow and do laps. So as I said, still some parts to test, and we check what is tomorrow like on the track. Sure, one more day experience is good.
Many thanks, Danny. Good job again today.
Rider, he seems pretty happy. Second place overall.
Yep. How's this? I think it's too easy to write Danny off as not a championship threat. Because of too many years he's had arm pump surgery or some other bike problem. Here's my wild card hope that with the new team manager treating him equally, and he's good physically. I haven't heard any that Danny, the bike is better than last year. He's possibly got the best bike out there. How would you like Danny to be leading the championship after a few races or sometime during the year? I think it's well possible.
Easily possible. Yep. Danny Pedrosa it seems to be underestimated far too often. Yep. And he comes back fighting with his back against the wall. I mean, the performance that he put in Misano a couple of years ago was absolutely outstanding. And you saw the emotions with his win in Jerez last year, because I think it was almost proof that he still can do it and he believes in himself.
Well, it's fair enough that people don't expect it because it's year after year it's been the same thing. All I'm saying is this might be one of Danny's last chances to have the right team behind him, the right bike, and he's got the ability. I would love to see him show us what he can do, It's the last piece of Danny's puzzle missing, isn't it,
Well, let's hope so. Danny Pedrosa, look out for him. Simon's tip. Dark horse tip for the season. We will remind you about this later on. We'll see how it all pans out. Moving over to the team in red now. We spoke to the Pramac Ducati riders. We're going to talk a little bit now about Andrea Dovizioso and Jorge Lorenzo. Perhaps not quite where we expected to see them, given that everybody was tipping this to be a Ducati circuit. It's working well for Miller and for Petrucci, but perhaps not quite so much for Dovizioso Lorenzo.
I honestly think it's early days. It's going to change tomorrow, and it'll change again at the test. At the race when they come here. And I think Dovi's working quietly behind the scenes, getting it right. I think Marc has got a setup bike-wise that he's happy. He's showing what he can do, but I think Dovi will get there as well. That's my prediction.
Is this a bit of a bogey test in many ways, given the fact that it's a new circuit? They're not going to race here till October. You heard from Johan Zarco there. Weather conditions could be different. Tyres are going to be completely different. Is this in effect almost just, get out there, try a couple of different things, learn the circuit, but, you're on your own, wait till Qatar?
No, basically all it is, as I said yesterday's show, that they can't afford to come here with no info to a new track. It's not fair on the tyre manufacturer or the teams. So, so basically they're trying to find a package to turn up here for the race. It's somewhere to start from, but what I'm saying is you can't go on the results really, because it will change again during race week.
And we're still fascinated to see how this works out for Jorge Lorenzo. I already know how much of a fan you are of Jorge and his style, but it's still that question, isn't it, as to what can happen from the mid-race onwards for him, because he's like lightning out of the blocks. How many times he got into turn one in the lead last year, I've lost count, but it's just sort of after 10, 11 laps where we're really looking for improvements from Jorge.
Funny you say that, because Jorge is the man I'm thinking about while saying what I last said, and that is there's no reason why Jorge won't be on pole, like he'll all of a sudden find what the setting and bang, like we saw in Sepang, and he'll be on pole. Who knows what race distance setup they've got, but that's what's possible,
Okay, so we're just looking here at some final footage here of Jorge Lorenzo. Now, from here, of course, we move on to Qatar. We go for a test, and then I think it's about 13 days after that test, we then move over to round one. Now, if you cast your minds back to last year, there were a couple of minor dilemmas where it rained and we had a few delays. But one thing that's really interesting about that test in Qatar that's coming up is on the final day, it has been decided that they are going to wet the circuit and give the riders a chance to go out under the night lights in the rain. Let's hear now from Marc Rossi to find out more.
The procedure is we stopping on the last day, like half hour before the end. We make the track wet, which is around 18 track, and we leave all rider go out for jack. It's not really a test for lap time. For us, it's really important to check the visibility, which 20 bike on the track, for see is possible to do the race on rain or not.
What did they say?
Yeah, somebody's happy, somebody no, but it's fine.
Much like life then, in general there for Marc Rossi. Well, let's actually hear now the thoughts then of some team bosses and some crew chiefs on this decision that's going to happen in Qatar.
My opinion is that if we want to race also in wet condition, it's better to test, because first of all, the surface in wet condition in the night with the light is very different from all the other conditions of wet. No? So it's important, especially for the rider, to understand what they will find, no? When the track will be wet. So this is very important. So if we want to race, we have to test.
Yeah, I mean, at the end, for us, it's not like positive or negative. I mean, we need to follow the rules. And then if now in Qatar, if it's rain, we need to ride, it's better to have at least some test to understand where you are and how is the level of the track, how is the track in the wet condition, because we never ride in Qatar in the wet. I believe if, like I tell you, if now the rules, if it's rain, we can ride, it's better to have some opportunity to ride on the wet, even for the rider, because we never ride in the completely wet. It's true, it's not the same when you will have a wet track but not raining, because this is a different point, because it's not the same amount of the water every time. It's not the same riding when you have the water in your visor, then it's clear everything and just the track wet. But at least it's better to have that test than to have nothing, because maybe like last year we have some chance to ride on the race on the wet without any practice.
Yeah, I mean, it's something we have to do, you know. I understand completely the reasons behind it, and of course everyone puts in such a big effort to be there in the first place, so to just say we can't race because of that is understandable. But we also have to think about safety, you know. The primary reason for we didn't do it was the rider's safety and the concerns brought up. So I think if we can check in a relaxed manner and make sure that everything is safe and we can do it and all the riders agree, then it's fine for us, you know. We're okay with that. But really the safety point is the key.
Safety always paramount, Simon, and that's the reason they're doing it. Also, let's face facts, you know, we're racing at night. There is a time element involved in this. If it was to rain, they want to try and get everything on, but safety is the key thing here. So I can understand everything that you've just heard from all of the crew chiefs there. You know, if we are going to potentially have a race scenario in the rain, you have to test. Now, what are the difficulties of this? I mean, I understand you've been on a bike under floodlights in the rain. Certainly from my perspective, just from the outside looking in, the glaze on the circuit must be a little bit of an issue.
Steve, it's another example for me how professionally they run this championship, because how many championships would go to the trouble of putting 18 or so trucks around to put water on just to test a safety? We were just sent out there, you know, and I can understand why, because after doing it, it's not just spray visibility. For example, you'll come out of a corner and where the floodlights reflect, you can't see the lines. Anyone who has driven or ridden home at night when it's raining, it's really difficult to see the road markings, and if you end up too far off the track, you imagine. So they've got to experience all this so they know what they're getting into in the race.
One of the other problems, though, that Santi Hernandez just brought up there as well is that no two conditions are the same. So you can dump a load of water on a circuit. I suppose it's just a general look to see, you know, is this possible?
I know totally what he's saying, because they're going to have less water, you know, on your helmet. But in the end, all that is, as long as you've got a good helmet and which you're going to have the spray from the bikes to kind of simulate it, unless you don't follow someone. All I'm saying is it's the right thing to do. So the race director can switch, go, we've got a wet race, and know that it's safe, you know. It's the right thing to do.
And I mean, normally, a couple of years ago, if someone would have said to you, doing this in Qatar, you'd have gone, you're absolutely crazy. What are you talking about? The reason we go there is because we're in the desert and it's hot and it's, you know, it's a great round to go to. But last year was a clear example. Pretty much every circuit we went to, bar a couple, it rained at some point during the weekend.
Yeah, so the chance of it happening again is low, isn't it? You know, but like I said, they have to know whether to push go or not. And yeah, that's it.
Well, Marc Marquez ended day one then, fastest overall, a 29.9. A good day for him. Qatar, as we mentioned, 27 days away, and we're really looking forward to that. I understand that Simon will be jetting out there as well to join up with Matt. You must be really looking forward to this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I am really enjoying my, you know, first year at this so far, and I look forward to be at the event where you can soak up the info a little bit better than being in the studio. So, this has been great fun. I hope the fans have enjoyed it.
Well, we didn't hear from this rider yesterday, and it's just coming in, so we better hear from the fellow Suzuki rider of Alex Rins to find out how he's been getting on over the last couple of days. Andrea Iannone is with us now.
Andrea, we saw you with a new fairing. Do you take any positive with this new part in the Suzuki?
But I think, especially me, Andrea, I don't try very well because when I start with a new fairing, I lose the front on the slow corner and I crash, and at the end I won't continue like with this fairing because for me we have other priority. But in any case, the first contact, so it's good. Not bad. I think Suzuki worked very well during this winter, especially on this area, on the aerodynamic area, and at the end tomorrow is priority for us. Compare both fairing, old one and new one, and we decide and choose one of these for the change.
Thanks there to Andrea Iannone. So for him, tomorrow really, really crucial. At least he's got something to be happy about. He seems to be in a much better place mentally than he was at the start of last season. So that's really good. Now let's move over to Ducati. We talked about them a little earlier on. Let's hear from Andrea Dovizioso now.
Andrea, it looked quite, I think, a busy day out there. I think you have been trying different chassis. So are you happy with the new chassis in the Ducati?
I'm happy about the speed we show today, but still we are working in the fairing and in the chassis. We have a chance to make a lot of work today. With the fairing we understood something more, and the chassis is very similar as the old one. But we are, I mean, it's very difficult to feel something big normally when you change a chassis. So we have to work in more to understand better the situation. Also in Qatar it will be important to compare again a different track, a different condition. But overall it's a strange test because the Michelin couldn't know the tire to use for the race, and the tire they bring looks like in our schedule is too soft for to make the race. And but the most quantity we have is that type of tire. So the lap time doesn't show the reality. They bring also some hard construction like the Austria race, and the lap time is lower, but I think that is more the reality for the race in October. And not a lot of riders tried that tire, and not a lot of riders was fast with that tire. So I'm happy in that condition. Marc was really fast, but like always in this kind of test, it's difficult to understand the real potential of everybody. Yeah, we are continuing to working more in the details. Fortunately, everything we try, it works. Still, we didn't understand very well if it's better to use the new things or not. But in any case, our speed is really good.
And regarding the fairing, Andrea, it looks like that you feel more comfortable with the one that is without the winglets. Is that right?
Yes and no, depends about the track, and we did a lot of comparison today to try to understand the fastest lap I did with the wingless, but doesn't mean it's the right fairing to use. I think, I mean, I don't want to enter in the details, but there is a positive and negative, and I think the work of the team and what the rider can understand, I mean, it's difficult to understand and can make a big difference during the season, like we did last year. So we still didn't take a final decision, but we are working very hard in that way.
Thank you and good luck tomorrow.
Thank you.
Andrea Dovizioso there. It sounds like a bit of a struggle, regardless of what happens tomorrow here in Thailand. It's going to go down to Qatar for these big decisions to be made on engines and, as Dovizioso was talking about there, the fairings. And it is a big decision to make. It's not one that you can just make hastily and say, okay, well, let's just go with this. And that's us for the rest of the season. They have to make sure everything's absolutely spot on.
I have huge respect for Dovi. He's so methodical. So he understands how he rides a bike, which most riders just ride and don't really know how they do it. He understands how he rides. He can give feedback to the team, so they'll non-stop just keep chipping away and going forward. That's why I think no matter what the results are here, he'll be there at the end for it. But what he's saying is those fairings, although he did the fastest lap on it today, he's not sure about the race, but the big thing is it's not like a chassis setup thing that he goes, oh, that's great, we'll take that everywhere. It might work at this track and it doesn't work at another track. It depends on speed, the advantages, the areas it gives an advantage, that fairing. And it looks like they've got to pretty much test it at a few more races to see whether they're going to keep it in the arsenal or not.
Before we close the show, we go back to pit lane to Matt Burt, which is a nice way to end things. We are going to have a quick look at some other footage. No, we're not. We're going to go straight to Matt here because I can see him. It's getting dark out there now in Thailand, Matt, and we've ended the day, as we were kind of talking up Honda. It looks as though it really has been a positive day for them. Marc Marquez first, Dani Pedrosa second overall.
Yeah, what a start it's been to 2018, Steve, for the factory Honda team, and also Cal Crutchlow. Marc Marquez, the reigning world champion, as you say, looking in great shape. It's going to take something special based on what we've seen so far, certainly here in Thailand, to wrestle that MotoGP world title away from Marc. Super, super happy. On his 25th birthday, of course, as well today here in Thailand. Running through his testing program methodically and meticulously, as he always does. He's going to pose a major, major threat, of course, in the 2018 MotoGP World Championship. What a day for him. Fastest on the track here in Thailand and celebrating his 25th birthday off it as well. So just about the perfect day all round for Marc.
We've got one more day left, of course, in Thailand, and then after that, just a couple of weeks' time, and just about after you've got over your jet lag, Matt, you're going to be jetting off to Qatar for the test there, and then the season starts. It's 27 days away today. How excited are you about the prospect of this 2018 season, despite the fact that Marc Marquez still remains the man to beat?
It's a mouth-watering prospect, isn't it, Steve, 2018. We can't wait to get going under those famous Losail International Circuit floodlights on March the 18th. Based on what we've seen so far in winter testing, what we've seen certainly throughout an enthralling 2017 World Championship, you could stake a case for 6 or 7 riders fighting for the World Championship. In terms of guys that are capable of winning races this year, well, that goes into double figures with names we mentioned earlier in the programme, Steve, like Alex Rins and Jack Miller. Danilo Petrucci also putting in really strong showing. So it's wide open. At the moment, it looks like the reigning world champion Marc Marquez, as we said, in great shape. And certainly here, it's been Honda territory so far. But you can never say never. The famous words of our colleague there, Nick Harris, of course. Andrea Dovizioso looking in great shape. Valentino Rossi and Maverick Vinales on the factory Yamaha. There's work to do, not quite pressing the panic button just yet, but quite clearly Yamaha are playing a little bit of a game of catch-up. But yeah, 27 days time under those famous floodlights in Qatar. We cannot wait to get going. It promises to be another sensational season, and as we say, roll on Doha.
Talking about Valentino Rossi just quickly, there's so many people that keep on tweeting into us about Rossi and this contract. They're desperate to hear news about it, and I know that you've been doing your very best to talk to the rider himself, to Lynn Jarvis. Your gut feeling, obviously, as is ours, is that he will continue on. When do we think, though, we're going to be getting this decision? And do you think that the problems that they've had are just going to stall things a bit?
Yeah, as you say, Steve, I've been doing a little bit of digging, but quite clearly at the moment my shovel not quite big enough, because Yamaha and Valentino remaining fairly tight-lipped about his contractual situation. Of course, inevitably, when there are so many factory contracts up for grabs, and given his status in the sport as an idol as he is, Valentino's always going to be creating big headlines. All the noises coming out of Yamaha and from the Rossi camp are there's a clear intention for him to carry on. He only turned 39, yesterday, the evergreen Italian. He shows no sign of slowing down, shows no sign of aging. It all points positively to Valentino Rossi continuing racing in 2019. There's been ongoing discussions between Rossi's management, himself, and Yamaha management. As we say, a clear intention at this stage from both sides to extend his contract. Will it be another 2-year contract, or will it be a 1 year for 2019 with an option to extend for 2020? That seems to be some an issue of debate, shall we say, right now. But we spoke, as you say, to Lynn Jarvis yesterday. He's very confident that they will have Valentino's name on a new contract very shortly. The last time Yamaha negotiated a major contract with Valentino, of course, 2 years ago, they moved in the market very quickly. They signed Jorge Lorenzo really early, and they signed Valentino Rossi at the first Grand Prix in Qatar, which we know is fast approaching. So if they've only just got to dot the I's and cross the T's, we may see an announcement imminently. We know that Yamaha have already signed up Maverick Vinales, so it's a good thing for them. They don't want their riders distracted when they're trying to fight Marc Marquez for the World Championship. No mean feat trying to wrestle that title away from Marc Marquez. So if Rossi is being incessantly questioned about his future, it might just distract him, although he is a canny, wily old fox, isn't he, Valentino? He's been there, done it, and got the T-shirt in his illustrious Grand Prix career. But Steve, I think there's no doubt from anybody in the paddock, and certainly from myself here in Thailand, that Valentino Rossi very shortly will be committing his future to Yamaha and to the Motogp World Championship, which is great news for us, great news for the sport, and of course great news for the millions of Motogp fans tuning in all around the world.
Certainly is, Matt. We understand that you had spoken to him a little earlier on. We've not yet got that interview, but it is coming up. So although we're talking to you live now, we will be hearing your thoughts with Valentino in just a moment. Before we let you go, though, just one last thing. Because we're in Thailand and there's so much popularity, of course, in Asia, I just want your thoughts on Hafiz Syrian and what you're thinking how he's getting on at the moment. Oh, we've got problems with Matt at the moment. The connection is cut. He can't hear anything. We're looking at him there. Are we going to cut to the Valentino Rossi interview? Yes, we are. We're going to go next now. This is what happens with live TV, folks. But let's go over now and hear what Valentino Rossi actually had to say to Matt a little earlier on.
Interesting, if not easy day, it looked like for you here today. Outside the top 10, the lap times are again very close. But what's your feelings about day 2 here in Thailand?
Was a tough day because we started quite well from this morning, and I did some good lap times, and after we have some work to do, something to try, and sincerely I don't like a lot. We try something in the electronic and some different in the setting, but unfortunately we don't find improvement. We have to work a little bit also for the Michelin because for the rear tire they are a bit wordy, so we try some other tires, and also with the other tires I have not enough feeling. I was not very strong, so it was a tough day, like you said. Yes. Now we have to concentrate and speak with the guys and try to follow another way.
yesterday you said the problem mainly was acceleration, certainly out of those low gear corners. Was that the same problem that you had today? And this was an issue that you talked about a lot last year. Are you a little bit worried that the problem of 2017 is still not been completely fixed by Yamaha?
Yes, because for me where we lose a lot is in the acceleration, because with this electronic we lose a lot, and it looks like that the other manufacturers are able to be faster, to find something else. Yes, and sincerely today we work a lot under that point of view, but we don't find positive things.
Well, we hope you find some solutions tomorrow, Valentino. Many thanks.
Valentino Rossi there, just giving his thoughts to Matt Burt. Didn't sound particularly happy. Things not going to plan for him so far on day 2. Things haven't exactly gone all plain sailing for us either. We lost connection with Matt Burt a little earlier on. I understand that you couldn't hear us. You're back with us now, Matt, to round off the show. Before we go, I just was talking about Hafiz Syrin, and we're talking about the Asian fan base that we have. The signs are that Hafiz Syrin looks like he could be staying, but how impressed have you been with him on his debut for Tech 3?
Really, really impressed with the Hafiz Syrin, Steve. He's jumped into, I mean, you talk about baptisms of fire, he's really jumped off the 10-metre board, feet first, hasn't he, here this weekend. A late call-up for the injured and absent Jonas Folger. It does look like Hafiz Syrin will be a permanent replacement for Folger in that monster Yamaha Tech 3 team, and he's acquitted himself absolutely brilliantly. Not only is he having to come to learn to ride a completely new motorcycle, one of the most difficult and fastest motorcycles to ride in the whole world, but he's of course never been to Buriram as well, so he's having to learn a new track. So a lot for the young Malaysian rider to contend with, and he's passed a tough examination so far, you have to say, with flying colours. The Tech 3 Yamaha team really, really impressed with how he's gone about his business, not taking any silly risk, just trying to learn and build up his confidence and build up his comfort levels on the Emma, a completely different motorcycle than what he's used to, of course, in Moto 2. A little bit of a blot on his copybook today, a crash at turn number 7, but that's inevitable, of course, when he's pushing to try and find out what the limits are. But in terms of Hafiz Syrin's involvement in the Motogp World Championship this year, what it's going to do in an area, Steve, like Southeast Asia, where MotoGP is already enjoying a massive boom time. Just to give you an example, we talked yesterday when I joined you on After the Flag about how in the town here in Buriram alone, just for the test, there are huge advertising hoardings everywhere, advertising banners throughout the town. There's a real passion and a buzz of anticipation and excitement ahead of the first race here in early October. Last night, there's actually a Thai Grand Prix Expo just outside the paddock here, which is here for the whole 3 days of the test. I'm not joking, Steve. We've been lucky enough to be in Jerez on Saturday night, real festival and carnival atmospheres. The same in Argentina at Termas de Rio Honda, where the South Americans, we know how much they love to party. Well, last night, the only thing I can compare it to really was a Saturday and Sunday night in Jerez or in Termas. Booming loud music, thousands of fans around, huge crowds in the grandstand today. So Hafiz Syrin, just another element to why Southeast Asia and the MotoGP at the moment just seem like a match made in heaven.
I think that's the perfect way to round things up. There's a guy in the background with a massive flame. He's burning and melting mosquitoes at the moment, so we're going to let you go before you get your head burnt, if it hasn't been already from the weather.
Too late.
Thank you so much for everything you've brought us today, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Pleasure, guys. Enjoy the rest of the show. We'll have a catch-up tomorrow. Look forward to it.
Matt Burt there, then live from pit lane in Buriram. I think that's just about enough for today. We've had a few tumbles here and there, but glad you stayed with us, and hopefully we'll be back with a more improved day 3 tomorrow. It's the final day of testing. Do not forget, of course, that tomorrow we are half an hour ahead, so a slightly different schedule. So we will be live with After the Flag at 10:30 CET. From Simon Crafar, thanks very much, and from myself, Steve Day, we'll see you tomorrow.